Hello, and welcome to Illuminations with Tiina and Fi. And hello, I'm Fi.
And I'm Tiina. Hi.
Hi. Morning, Tiina.
Hi.
So today is an interesting one. Today I actually am going to just be very free-falling around what we're going to talk about today. And it's something that I'm thinking through, as you can see probably from my face. So what we're going to look at is the whole idea of sitting with feelings and emotions, and maybe therefore states, sitting with them and noticing what you notice, to when we then start to change state actively. Now, why I'm asking this is because of my own interest as in working within the world of mindfulness and attending the 8-week course and getting my certificate and all the rest, and learning and loving the idea of sitting with and noticing emotion and feeling and thought with loving kindness and compassion for myself and lack of judgment. And then when alongside that I put, for example, being a practitioner in NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, where we kind of look at, and in our businesses as coaches, we look at state change. So that's kind of become a bit of a, kind of just a slight, is there intention? I'm not sure. But I'm just interested in exploring it. So, and Tiina, I know you have, because we've talked about this. So we thought we'd bring it and share and have a chat about it today. Any thoughts from you, Tiina?
I think it's a difficult one, even though saying that it's difficult, of course, then makes it difficult.
True.
But, just to allow myself to use that language today, I think it's, so when do you sit with especially uncomfortable feelings, because of course it's easier to sit with feelings that are good, then we're quite often happy to be there when we're not self-sabotaging, but let's put that aside for now. More. So uncomfortable emotions, uncomfortable feelings, human natural response, I don't want to feel that. That doesn't feel good. Take it away, please. So of course we often want to just run away from that. So it then becomes difficult to kind of know, okay, so when is it good for me to sit here and feel this, because I might actually grow and learn something from it, and it will be a process that will help me in the future, versus am I just sitting in this feeling, wallowing in self-pity? Would it be better for me to change my state now to actually get something done, or to not kind of drag myself down even more? And then also thinking, okay, so am I running away from the feeling, numbing it with something, alcohol, sex, shopping, food, and thereby causing myself more pain in the end? It's all kind of in a big bubble, all mixed together, and kind of, so when do I know? And I don't have an answer for that. I think it really is a process. It's a learning process. It won't happen overnight, and it's about learning about yourself a lot. Did I just ramble on there for a while?
I thought that was fantastic. You really got to the nub of it. Yeah, you really did. You got to the nub of it, because I was thinking more from a coach perspective, but actually you're right. Let's go back to just thinking about it. I don't mean just in a limiting way, but thinking back from an individual perspective. And I think that whole idea of working through something versus maybe the idea of wallowing It's an interesting one, I suppose. Okay, so let's start off with extremes then. So if we know someone's in a high anxiety state, like I had with someone recently, you can't stay there. That's not good, is it? Because we know that all the stuff that's going on in the body at that point is really dangerous for the body long term if we're in high adrenaline state, on cortisol and all that. Cortisol, is that it? Yeah. Living on that, and we know the long-term impact that can have on a whole range of sort of challenging bodily responses such as blood pressure, etc. So maybe there's times when it's like, okay, now is the time to change state. This is the time to do it, and knowing how to do that, which obviously we're going to look at over other illuminations. Maybe it's that is different. It's rather an exception in a way, or is it, to other times when, because you and I have worked together on the grief recovery program, we know that actually working through those emotions and letting them out, is really important. Experiencing those feelings and not, as you say, numbing out with them.
Fi, just to note that sometimes you fade away, the sound fades away quite a lot, and then it comes booming back, and I don't know what it is because you're not moving around that much, but just to be aware that you're disappearing sometimes.
Thank you. In fact, I did a webinar recently and it did the same, so that's interesting, Tiina. Okay.
Well, yeah, extreme emotions, if we call them extreme, I don't know if they are extreme, but with anxiety and, when it becomes really destructive, of course, is there any point in staying there? No, I don't think so. And it's finding those strategies to get out. Because what is the learning when you are down in that hole, or whatever you want to call it? But if we talk about a feeling like grief, for example, there's a point in feeling grief and going through that process, because, well, you're grieving, you're being sad about something. But of course, it's uncomfortable, and then you want to run away. What am I trying to say here? Let me think. Feel free to take the word at the moment, because my mind is going like this.
Well, I think, okay, so I think you're right. I think if someone, an extreme is so subjective, isn't it? We know that too. But if someone is in a place where the body's gone into fight, flight or freeze, one of those three states at a high level, then it's time to change state in that moment. And it is, which we'll talk about. What you obviously could do is look back to see how you ended up in that place where it's so uncomfortable that life is really not pleasant. So that's the kind of early triggers. So if we kind of put that to one side and then start, I'm just thinking personally, what have I learned? Well, I suppose because I know we only have one thought at any time, and we choose that thought, I kind of know that my thoughts I can choose. So I suppose the thought can influence the feeling, and the thought can be a response to a feeling, can't it? Because if it does something and you suddenly feel that because they've triggered something, your thought can then take you down a road of that feeling growing, or take you down a road where it's sort of, that's another situation. But actually, if you're feeling like I felt a bit last year, felt quite lost for quite a while. That's the word I'd use, and I know you know this. I did actually genuinely in the end believe it wouldn't always be like that, and I'm here and it isn't like that. So somewhere, and I did work on looking at state changes, as in all the strategies that we know and can use. I did use that, but I also kind of recognised what Brené Brown doesn't she calls it the rumbling, the Act 2. If anybody wants to read Rising Strong. Is it Rising Strong? Yeah. That's what she talks about, is rumbling with the feeling. And I think in the past, I probably would have wanted to numb it out in some way, you know, if it was more uncomfortable. Yeah. So that is personal learning, I think.
Yeah.
Mm.
And it all, I think there's only personal learning that everybody can have. You can take strategies from various sources and then try them out. I think it's quite important that while you are feeling uncomfortable feelings, is to ask yourself questions, or indeed have somebody you trust and talk to and say, okay, I'm unsure now if I should stay here or not. You know, what's my gain of staying here? What does my instinct say that, you know, go and do instead? Is it, I'll go and, you know, eat lots and lots of chocolate without even thinking about what you're doing, you know, that kind of obsessive, you know, just kind of, because while I'm eating, I won't feel. Then it's like, okay, so then I'm clearly numbing out, so I'm running away from it. And kind of start asking, okay, so is this self-pity? Am I being in victim state? You know, do I want to kind of just be in victim and blame everybody else? You know, what is it all about? Or is it a feeling that I just need to experience and go through, and the only reason I want to run away from it is fear of that feeling? I'm so scared of feeling that, because it's very, very scary. And I'm not talking about enormous anxiety or anything like that. Just, you know, let's say that somebody's left you, you know, like in a love relationship, and you've broken up, and that's awful. That loneliness and that loss of all those dreams and everything. And it's like, well, honey, you know, that's kind of what it's all about. You know, you can't escape it. And then it's a case of being there and then having people around you to help you through it.
Yeah, and they say, I've been reading quite a lot about journaling, you know, and I know I've got a very good friend who does a lot of journaling. And, you know, it's not my ilk, actually, if I'm honest. I have in the past written some poetry, not to be published, I might add, but I have actually, you know, written in times of, if I look back, some of my poetry is you know, it's linked to situations around me, and you're right. Some quite complex and quite, you know, deep feelings of uncomfortableness. But actually journaling, I know people see quite a lot of clarity through journaling, because obviously what it does after a while is the subconscious and the gut starts, you know, to come into play, and you can get more in tune with what's going on in reality. I often talk about brain dumps. You know, there's so much going on and so many questions and so much stuff, you know, literally put a timer on, 10 minutes, everything out of the brain on a piece of A4 or whatever size you want, flip chart, I think I did once and filled it, turn the timer off, then another 5 minutes, going again. And it's the clarity then leading to what you're talking about, absolutely. And someone asking, or you asking good questions like you've suggested, I think that's brilliant. Which is probably why I spoke to you quite a lot when I was feeling quite lost, because you're right, there's always looking at the gain. I think that often people find that quite challenging, but the gain of a state or feeling. And if the gain is to genuinely travel through and feel something, because it's about journeying and completing that, as you say, if your relationship ends, then yeah, that's quite important, isn't it? And allowing the space for it to happen as well, that's really important, because we can also numb out by keeping very busy and people around us. And
you know what just pops into my head is cultures where when a loved one dies, you know, and there's lots of wailing and screaming and putting it out there, and I think, what a relief. in more Western cultures, we're like, yes, we will cry a little bit, but we will be quiet about it, and 2 weeks later, yeah, life goes on, you know. Whereas you know, in other cultures you might be allowed to grieve for a longer period of time, and you're allowed to talk about it, and it's okay to talk about it. And it's that allowing yourself to go through that, be there, and not feel shame about those tougher feelings. And I think there's almost a high in, well, is it Western culture? I don't know if I should call it Western culture, but certainly in the cultures that I'm used to, that we should always be happy and, oh, everything is good, and, you know, well, it's your own fault if you're not feeling great. And it's like, well, all feelings are valid. And it's just that, okay, we have a choice of where do we want to be, you know. Do I want to be upset and sad? Yeah, maybe right now I want to be. Okay, well, then that's where you're being. But just kind of think about the gain in it. It's not just to say that all tough feelings are bad, and all, you know, more lighter, happy feelings are good. So there's an awareness of that as well.
Yeah, I know. And I remember when my own mum died, and I remember my brother saying to me, you know, having lost my father earlier, and, you know, 10 years earlier, you know, oh, you know, I know now what I have to journey through. I just wish I could press the fast forward, you know, which was very honest. And, you know, and I think it's really interesting. And we're maybe back to this idea of kind of like tipping points and balance, in that, you know, it's let's go back to that. It's when it gets to the point of it being detrimental to your life, that the feeling is overcoming, is overtaking, is overwhelming. You know, maybe that's the gut noticing that, the good questions, you know, asking yourself. So that might be part of it as well. Yeah, that's an interesting one. And I also think sometimes it's because you're not quite sure. Or when I have to say to people, I say, I don't want to feel this and I don't want to feel that. And I'll say, so we know the brain can't compute don't. It doesn't compute negatives. So all it's hearing is, I want, you know, I feel, and I feel. It doesn't hear the don'ts at all. So I say, well, what do you want to feel? And I do remember this when I felt really lost last year. It was so difficult to think about, well, then how do I want to feel? If I don't want to feel this, how do I want to feel? And then if you've got, this can be a bit of guilt attached to that, because, you know, if you're moving out of whatever grief state or whatever state, you know, you have to say goodbye to that state and move on. And there can be attachment even to the state. So then, you know, you've probably got to a point where it's time to move through. But maybe looking at, you know, considering how you want to be. I think that probably helped me as well, because, you know, that's when I picked out, I really want to have, you know, contentment and moments of bliss. That's my biggie. Yeah. And I have to say, Danielle Laporte, it was one of her truth bombs that arrived in, and it triggered it, and I knew then. So maybe it is being open to signs coming in, to, you know, noticing how things resonate with you, because that truth bomb and that time definitely resonated. So maybe I look back, isn't it funny? And maybe at that moment, that was the time to start moving forward then, and move out of that lost state and go, right, okay, I want to have moments of bliss. Let's start to look at how I can then, you know, work my life so that's what I'm having. Interesting.
Yeah, and you were ready at that point.
Yeah, yeah. So ready, knowing when you're ready.
It's not an easy task, but you know, when I started talking, it's like practice, you know.
Yeah.
Practice doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah. So,
yes.
If I look at all this a bit more in detail in another illumination. So, what about people considering at the end of this illumination, which was kind of not really more answers, but more questions maybe, that's good, is maybe think about, if they reflect back over their life and look at times when they've had uncomfortable feelings or emotional states, and just look at what may have been little signs or triggers that gradually moved them So, you know, what moved them from that state? And if they are in a state now, what signs or triggers might they be noticing around them moving from that state? How does that sound to you, Tiina?
That sounded a little bit long-winded.
Okay, right. So, when you are in times of feeling more challenging emotional states, when do you know it's time to actually start to move forward out of that state or from that state? How about that, Tiina?
Yeah, much better for you.
You can tell our kids the Blarney Stone. I've snogged it, they say. The gift of the gab.
Excellent. Well, it's been an interesting one, this one.
It has.
A bit challenging.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tiina.
Thanks, Fi. I'll see you next time.
See you next time. Bye now.
Bye.